This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feast and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast, where each and every week we take a deep dive into the good, the bad, and the awesome of wrestling video games. I'm the man they call Johnny Clash.
And my name is George Feast, and today we are playing WWE Day of Reckoning for the Nintendo GameCube. How will this game hold up? Will we play it forever? Woo! Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
We also discuss superhero games, Fortnitemares, and a whole lot more.
Please subscribe, leave a 5-star review for this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. And don't forget, you can get this episode early and ad-free at patreon.com/GameMarksPod. George is so excited. He's hitting his microphone.
Got to do mic arm, and it's lower than I'm used to, so I just went to go grab my microphone and smacked it. So, you know, there's an adjusting period.
We're already talking about George grabbing his microphone. How you doing? How was your birthday?
I'm doing okay, and it's funny. We didn't mention mine last episode, and as we're recording, yours is tomorrow. So when this releases, both of our birthdays will have passed. So a happy belated birthday to you as well, John.
We used to put a lot of thought into that and be like, oh, you pick my game, I'll pick your game. I guess we're over that in our later elder years, huh?
I think we've just done so many picking examples or like different versions of it where I would surprise you. We would pick the birthday games. There'd be like a blind surprise and you wouldn't know until we were recording.
We ended up with Day of Reckoning anyway, so thank you.
That's a good birthday episode, and it's a good redemption episode for me. But before we get into that, let's talk about last week's episode. 80s Mania Wrestling returns, a double play it forever from both of us for pretty much the same reason. What are your thoughts? A lot of feedback, got some whole new set of conversations happening on social media, which is great. We love and appreciate all of the new listeners and can't wait to dive into the next iteration of this game, which is Modern Wrestling Returns.
Yeah, I went back. I played a little bit. It's a good game to just pass the time. Yeah, sometimes I'm getting a little sick of Marvel Snap. I'm in that like in between season mode where like I played too much last season to try to finish on a high. Like I'm only playing a little bit now, but it'll ramp up again. Don't you worry. But I want to talk about some bigger news. Fortnite Chapter 1 possibly returning at the end of this season.
It's
a month where each week it goes through a different chapter.
So that's what the rumor mill is saying right now, which if that's the case,
it's a hard rumor mill.
If that's the case, that I'm all about it. It's a great theory, and it's a great way to kind of, I don't know, cycle back around, because the black hole event seemed pretty recently, but it was a decent amount of time ago. And to have something like that again, where it's like a full month of time shifts and things like that, to then have another full reset, kind of cool, kind of into it.
Yeah, and it works its way back probably to what we have today, I guess, right? I mean, I'm not ready to let go of Mega City for Tilted. I'm just saying that. I love Mega City.
So my friend brought up a good point. So I had, he's someone who played up until, where I feel like a lot of people started to fall off with Fortnite. I would say the downfall for a lot of the people was when building got to be too crazy. Mm-hmm. And like, unless you were, like an insane builder, you were always getting shit on. But, I brought it up to him. I was like, oh, there's this happening and there's like rumors that they might go back to season 1. He goes, yeah, but that whole map was before Zero build. Like a lot of those like POIs are made to get around with building. So what are they going to have to do to like
the vaulting jump now?
Yeah, but he brought up like how you get to the top of Dusty now. Like top of Dusty was a huge POI where like
redeploy.
Or I guess the brooms.
There's ways. Yeah, there's ways.
Yeah, there's ways to get out there, but it was just like, oh yeah, maybe they bring back the grapple gun.
Yeah, that wasn't in that too long ago.
I love the grapple gun. Yeah. Grapple gun was great.
Not for me. The broomsticks are pretty cool. I'm liking Fortnightmare so far.
Have you played the zombie horde thing?
I actually
what is it called? Horde Rush?
Yeah, I went into team, whatever, the 50-person red versus blue one the other day, but they didn't have a zero build option. And I was like, all right, I'm out. Try
what is it? The Pit, I think it's called. There's the Pit zero build. It's pretty good. You get a lot of experience. You get like 22,000 per kill or something like that, which is insane.
I'm just trying to get better on keyboard and mouse.
That's a good way to do it.
I'm still very slow, but I switched some sensitivity yesterday and it got like a little better.
Try those free for all maps in the community creations, and I think you may, because one, they're free for all, so you die and immediately respawn. So it's not like you have to queue again, load up again, you know, all that stuff. You're in, you play, you die, you come back, you go back in again.
But we're here, George.
I want a good old fashioned drum roll behind this, John.
One of your weird drum rolls. I hate it so much. I'm ready to dive into one of my favorite games, not only wrestling, not only on the GameCube, ever. WWE Day of Reckoning.
All right, here we go. Now, the original WWE Day of Reckoning episode we played, it was our third episode of the podcast. Wow. It was September 2nd, 2019, and the episode was only 33 minutes long.
I didn't even have like a good microphone yet. This might have been the first one with the new microphone.
I think I was still on this mic. I've had this microphone for This is an old microphone.
That's the microphone I bought, and then now I'm on number 3.
Well, crazy. You've gone through upgrades. Like you had the original like Samson. The original Samson, the Pocket Mic, and then you got the AT2020, and now you're on the QTU, which is another Samson product, but a gigantic leap forward from the original mic.
What's crazy is I had another Samson condenser mic that I used for recording music.
Do you have a lapel mic too?
I tried them the other day. They don't work. So garbage.
And then there's like some scattered episodes in there where like we're on the same mic when we used to like do episodes at Creative Pro. Like,
yeah, I wish I could find this other mic though. It might be good. It was a nice condenser.
It's somewhere in a tote.
It's gotta be. But let's dive in.
All right. So Day of Reckoning released August 30th, 2004. The Nintendo GameCube, published by THQ, developed by Ukes and other wrestling games. In 2004, you've got WWE Survivor Series, WWE SmackDown vs. Raw, Fire Pro Wrestling Z, Rumble Roses, Backyard Wrestling 2, There Goes the Neighborhood, King of Coliseum 2, and Showdown, Legends of Wrestling. And I do believe, with the exception of King of Coliseum 2, we've played all of them, right?
I believe so. Crazy to see a wrestling game released in August.
Yeah,
the end of August, so it's really September, but still a little.
It's
weird.
A little early for like video game season.
Yeah,
but nonetheless, maybe they're getting ahead of the pack. Maybe that was just the release schedule back then. But I mean, this game, if you haven't played this game, there's a reason that we're going back to it. John said it at the top of the episode. It's one of his favorite games, not just in wrestling, not just on the GameCube. It's one of his favorite games of all time. And
all time.
I'll say it. I said it on the original episode. I'll say it here again. Prior to this episode, I had no experience. Prior to the podcast, I had no experience with the game. Did not play it. Wasn't really big into wrestling games on the GameCube. I played a lot of other things on the GameCube. Just didn't know that there were, gold, platinum standard qualities like S tier games like this on there.
Well, I always felt like WrestleMania 18, obviously, very lacking. First game on the console. Probably didn't know their limitations on the small GameCube disc. WrestleMania 19, a huge upgrade. The beautiful revenge mode, which is available in our YouTube. I played through as Shawn Michaels. One of my favorite stories in any wrestling game right there. But then this one just kind of like took a step back, kept the kind of game easy for me to say, same game mechanics, not game same mechanics.
Close enough.
Gave them a little upgrade, added some things in, like the momentum shift and a better submission game and all that. It's not just button mashing. It is, but there's at least like a meter. But then just gave it like a fresh coat of paint. Made it look comparable to like the SmackDown vs. Raw, the Here Comes the Pain. Gave it like a beautiful upscale. The rings, everything just looked crazy. The music was updated. You know, now we're getting the real theme songs, not like the dated theme songs.
And like a nice soundtrack.
Yeah, I also felt like 18 and 19, there was no like immersion into the arena. Like it looked like a disconnect. Everything was lighted the same. This game, you feel like you're actually like watching wrestling a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, you're still facing the ramp like the COVID shows in NXT, but it's a little better.
Yeah, the camera angle, and I don't know. There are certain aspects of the game as a whole that while we were playing through and then going back and watching the original playthrough that we did, was just like, oh, there's parts of that like, wow, this is really cool. Like, I can't believe this is a game from 2004. And there were other parts where I was like, oh, yeah, the game shows its age a little bit in spots. It's not glaringly old, but there are certain parts where you're like, oh, okay, I see now.
What I think is the crazy part is if you think about the controls, the mapping, how everything plays, this all stems way back to like No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000, like that whole lineage of games. You have the strong and weak grapples and strong and weak punches, A and B to do the finisher, the L and R for the grapple and strike reversals, engaging the finisher with the little music that plays and it goes away.
This should have been the continuation of that.
It's crazy. 18, 19 also had that. I think this one, they kind of scaled it back even more. And man, it's just easy to pick up and play.
Yeah, this was not a hard game to learn and an easy game to master, but it's like a master class in how to make a pickup wrestling game. Like there is I think the hardest part is learning the difference between the L reversal and the R reversal. Once you get that,
yeah,
it's just kind of figuring out like what's the momentum shift? What does your special do? Like everything else is either a match stipulation or, you know, finding out how to use those small little pickups to your advantage. But the game itself, you punch, grapple, kick, run, you know, if your first time picking up a controller.
Doesn't get much better than that. I mean, games now or even, you know, WWE 2K, I have to sit there and think if I haven't played in a while, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
How do I do this? I feel like Fight Forever, when I go back and play that, which is dwindling, even that I still kind of feel used to because it kind of runs on the same scheme as this. But there's some things here and there that you still have to figure out. But let's talk quickly about the menu here. You got your exhibitions, your story mode, your shop zone, a tutorial, which is always nice, create a superstar, and your options. Now, singles, tag team, triple threat, fatal four-way, handicap, Royal Rumble, ladder, TLC, cage, Hell in a Cell, bra and panties, and Iron Match are your exhibition options. Now, the shop zone is something also kind of ripped right from No Mercy, where they had the shop zone where you could buy superstars and all that. But this time you're buying arenas, you're buying parts to your creator wrestlers. There's some weird things in there that you probably will never need.
The parts, I always thought like with the games where they were just like, oh, hey, here's some things that you can get for your wrestler are always cool, but not.
Never needed them. I don't need to be Goku in a wrestling game. And that's what it always looked like.
Maybe sometimes you want to.
No. You could get moves like the Mandible Claw, F5, and a bunch of other moves of wrestlers who are not in the game, like Jeff Hardy. Move templates, which is, you know, we always talk about it. I hate creating movesets in games. So downloading a template that says Extreme Wrestler, you assume it's Jeff Hardy, or picking like Shawn Michaels. That's usually what I went with for my wrestler. Made it super easy. Change the finisher. Done. Now, weapons. You can upgrade your weapons. You can get a sledgehammer, a fire extinguisher, a steel pipe, a trash can, brass knuckles, which was so cool, and a crutch. Now, the brass knuckles you actually wear on your hand. You punch. Each weapon, I think, only has 3 hits before it disappears, too. So once you're holding those knuckles...
But the sounds that they make.
Oh, the kendo stick is one of the best sounds. Just
a lot of them, though.
Whipping noise and a crack.
The cage breaking, like when you go through the cage,
It's so Nintendo, but so nice.
Oh yeah, well I think that's part of the charm of it, is that it is so Nintendo. You're like, oh, I kind of love that it's so Nintendo-y.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the momentum shift. I think this is a piece that helped you play. Now, listen.
I still got my ass kicked.
I have played a lot of this game in my entire life. A lot of Day of Reckoning. This was my game. So for George to come in, he was at a little bit of a disadvantage. But I'll say he held his own properly. The momentum shift helped in his favor. So when you're losing, you press A and B, which is the same as doing a finisher, and it actually switches your momentum with the other guys. And then you get a finisher.
And I want to say it's going to be the social clip this week, but you get a momentum shift, and then you could hit your finisher 8 times in a row, and your opponent will still sometimes get up. And
I'm just that good. Sorry.
Unreal. You really are the whole effing show.
But now I think the story mode here took a big upgrade from as much as I love the WrestleMania story mode, it wasn't so much a wrestling story mode as much as it was a video game story. You know, you're throwing construction workers off of buildings. It was very hokey, very animated. You know, you're climbing from chain to chain, jumping across the street, not getting hit by a car just to save WrestleMania. Like, come on. It's a little like, I'd be like,
you telling me that you wouldn't do that?
I'm not getting paid enough. That's what I would say. But this one, we go back to a real wrestling storyline. I cannot even tell you how many times I would create a new wrestler and start this over again. First of all, you have to pick between Raw and SmackDown. So right off the bat, you have to run through this twice. Even though the stories are identical, you still have to see who's on Raw, who's on SmackDown. And there are less SmackDown superstars, so it gets a little repetitive, and it's not really the heavy hitters you'll see along the way. So
now, did we ever figure out why that was the case?
That the roster was smaller?
Yeah.
Because the roster was smaller.
No, but I mean, I guess it is just the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
I would say, like, are there big players missing? But
well, there are some people missing, and we'll get into it later. And no, they're not really big wrestlers. But you start off on Sunday Night Heat. You're kind of taken under the wing of the coach for some reason, who, you know, wrestling genius Jonathan Coachman. You work with Vince. You work with Eric Bischoff and all that. And then eventually you get to pick between Raw or SmackDown. Vince gives you the choice. And then you start getting harassed by either the New Ministry or Evolution. And eventually you join. Now, the New Ministry consists of Undertaker, Booker T, Big Show, and Charlie Haas.
On paper, the New Ministry sounds like a phenomenal storyline.
But it's not. Well, it's the same thing as the Evolution story, like verbatim. Which is a little, words tweaked here and there. And your main objective by the end of WrestleMania is to get either the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE Championship from either Triple H or The Undertaker. Now, at one point, I think John Cena joins the New Ministry, which is pretty funny. Yeah, take that as you will.
All right, I take back what I said.
The story finishes in an Iron Man match at WrestleMania 20, which, in my opinion, is my favorite and best WrestleMania. And one of the coolest WrestleMania sets. It's got the nice New York City skyline. Now, the story is continued in Day of Reckoning 2. We cover that in the Day of Reckoning 2 episode. It's under the assumption you choose Raw, so it kind of picks up from where you left off on the Raw brand.
Now, okay, going back and playing that, do you think that it would okay. I don't know if this is maybe putting too much hope, but how cool would it have been if you had a save point or you had if it knew that you had a save file on your memory card and it was like, oh, I see that you beat it a SmackDown. Here's the SmackDown storyline.
That would be awesome, but we are not at that point, especially not on the GameCube.
Give me a remaster of Day of Reckoning.
I would love it. But all right, let's go to a quick break and come back and read this roster.
All right. Do you want me to take us through the Raw roster, and then you could take us through the SmackDown roster and the legends and NPCs? That looks like it'll make it about even.
Let's do it.
All right, your Raw roster for Day of Reckoning. You've got Batista, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Christian Edge, Garrison Cade, Kane, Lance Storm, Matt Hardy, Molly Holly, Randy Orton, Rhino, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, Shelton Benjamin, Stacy Keibler, The Rock, Triple H, Trish Stratus, Val Venus, and Victoria.
And SmackDown, great era of SmackDown. Big Show, Booker T, Charlie Haas, Chavo Guerrero, Danny Basham, Doug Basham, Eddie Guerrero, Hardcore Holly, John Cena, Kurt Angle, Mark Jindrak, Rob Van Dam, Rey Mysterio, Rhino, and The Undertaker. Your Legends, which is a very eclectic group. You got Andre the Giant, Bret Hart, Brutus Beefcake, Greg Valentine, and Roddy Piper. And now your NPCs who are in the game. You got Paul Heyman for SmackDown, Eric Bischoff for Raw, Vince, the Coach, and Mike Chioda. And I don't think it needs to be said, there's no commentary in this game.
No. There is a lot of good music, though. I mean, it's a hell of a soundtrack, which is more than enough to get you through your gameplay, though.
I thought Sable was in this game.
You said that during our gameplay, and I don't remember that.
She's interesting. I don't know why I thought that. It looked like her. I guess it was Trish or something in that picture they were showing. But now, the arenas you get in the game, you start off in a house show and Sunday Night Heat. There's no Velocity for some reason, but you have Raw and SmackDown. I always liked the house show arena. It was kind of just like a cool little WWE arena that used to have. Now they have the nice little stage and stuff they set up. And your pay-per-views, you have SummerSlam, Unforgiven, No Mercy, Survivor Series, Armageddon, Royal Rumble, No Way Out, and WrestleMania. A very small list compared to what is in games today.
But the best part about it is there's no years.
Because I removed them so you didn't read them. Because that is terrible content.
Damn.
But if you want, you could go through this soundtrack here because it's pretty much the same soundtrack as a lot of other WWE games at the time.
But it's a good soundtrack. You've got Anthrax and Public Enemy, Bring the Noise. You've got Breaking Benjamin, Firefly, Breaking Benjamin, Polyamorous, Core with The Angle. Pre-Thing with Can't Stop. Showcore with Bone Cracker.
Bone Cracker.
I need you to give me your rendition as I name the song. Style of Beyond with Superstars.
I don't know that one.
Swollen Member with Bottom Line.
Hey now.
Tantric with Chasing After. Zebrahead with Alone. And one that I know John loves very much. Zebrahead, Falling Apart.
Everything's falling apart. Love Zebrahead.
It's a great soundtrack. It definitely gets you through the matches and
a little repetitive, but depends how long you play.
I was going to say it depends on how long the matches go. Yeah, you definitely, if your matches go a little longer, can hear the same thing more than once. But hey, it is what it is. If you like the songs, then that's fine. And if you don't like the songs, you will grow to love the songs because you're going to hear them a lot.
You have no choice.
But let's talk about what may be one of the more iconic parts of this game. Let's talk about this Chef's Kiss beautiful cover. You've got the Day of Reckoning logo, Trish Stratus, Triple H, Randy Orton. And the thing that I think is really cool about this logo is that in the O of Reckoning, you see what I'm assuming is your creator wrestler just posing in the O, but then the shadow that is being cast is the same pose, but you're holding a world championship, which I think is really cool. And yeah, it's just, we say it all the time. You look at this, if you don't know what the WWE is, man, the cover does a good job of just being like, hey, you should pick this up because this looks interesting as hell.
But then the back We'll explain it even more by saying brown pennies. The story mode that turns
that explains the whole game.
I don't know how my mom bought me this crap. The story that turns a rookie's dream into a superstar's reality. School of Hard Knocks. Take your created wrestler up the ranks in a completely original story mode that starts you in the minor leagues, in quotes, of sports entertainment to WWE Velocity and Heat and all the way to the big time of WWE programming. I don't remember Velocity being in here.
I don't either.
New superstar momentum shift. Turn the tables on your opponent when they least expect it with a nice picture of Kane and The Undertaker from WrestleMania 20, one of my favorites. WWE Legends shows Andre as a nice picture of John Cena with those word life knuckles with Stacy Keibler, and then an RKO in the bottom. But I have the actual physical cover here. I want to go through this book. So look right here. The back, coming soon, WWE Survivor Series for Game Boy Advance. So that actually did come soon. But that's what I'm looking for, like little Easter eggs like that, like credits. It's got the songs.
What other teases of future games did they put in there?
Motion sickness, laser device. There's not much. It's black.
How many
and white.
megabytes did it take up on your memory card, John?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or sorry, memory blocks, because MB couldn't have been megabytes. It had to be
32.
Okay.
Yeah,
not terrible.
32 blocks. Not bad. One of the best wrestling game covers, because not only was it different from the SmackDown vs. Raws and the stuff we were used to, the SmackDown games, it's just on a different console. Like, this looks like a GameCube game.
Yeah, 100%. If it wasn't for if the big giant GameCube logo on the top didn't give it away.
Yeah. And the disc, obviously, Dave Reckoning logo, monotone, John Cena in the corner. But let's talk about the actual graphics. We kind of touched on it earlier. It's a big upgrade from WrestleMania 19. I guess like the reskins, the textures,
I feel like that's the thing that always is what sets it apart.
The darker crowd, but it's still the same stuff that was in 19, like the same ring apron. Like, it always bothered me that the ring apron only had the WWE logo, but didn't say like the .com or like the actual like SmackDown. It didn't have the actual stuff from like real life in it.
But then you're talking about the skins and the textures, like the details on people's tattoos, I feel like are
sweat.
Yeah. And okay, so I can't remember what the game was that we played where we said that everyone just had looked like they'd like been dunked in a thing of baby oil.
Probably Raw 2.
Maybe it was that, but I remember being like, everyone is glistening. Yeah. And they're glistening in spots that the light's not even hitting them. Like where there should be shadow, they're still glowing, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think it was Raw 2.
But this isn't overdone. The details on the character models are, in some cases, great. And then, like we mentioned, there's other spots where you're like, okay, game's kind of showing its age. Some of the walking animations are a little wonky at times. There's certain points where people kind of look like they're walking on spaghetti legs. I think I even mentioned it in our playthrough that on Batista's entrance, there's like a certain point where he's just like, oh, like what happened to his legs there? That kind of like,
yeah,
he got like a little shaky leg, or looked like he was tripping down the ramp on the way to the ring.
Yeah, and still like the collision was the same as the previous games where you could hit like an elbow drop on someone standing. Like, it's just anything goes collision. Like, you could break up a finisher and all that. I don't know. Sometimes I just really hate that, especially multi-man matches. And other times it's like, oh, this is cool. You could just do whatever.
I feel like that's a good mechanic for when you're playing with someone and not so much like playing with a friend. You kind of want that chaos and like fun. It's like what makes the game more enjoyable with like to, play it with a friend. But in when you're just trying to grind through the storyline, like no, that's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, I don't know. I do like that the HUD is back to No Mercy style. It's the little I guess pulsing color bar. Starts at blue for danger and red for finisher. It works its way up.
And then like a EKG or whatever.
Yeah. But then the finisher meter is underneath that. It's just a bar that once it gets to the top, you fill out the letters WWE, and that's your 3 finishers you could store and kind of burst into at any time. And you have your body meter to the left with the head, the arms, the torso, the legs, and all that to do that. We're in that era now where that is now a staple in every game.
But again, not overbearing it's big. but it's not. You're not playing on a handheld console, so the real estate for stuff like that isn't as important.
And there's also a new submission bar. You go to the red side that says escape, or the blue side that says submit, and you just mash A, and it's kind of a tug of war to see who gets to, escape or finish or submit. It's really all in all perfect. This
generation of games is very. I guess it is still to this day. Maybe certain things aren't as much, but this game was very button mashy.
Oh yeah.
But that's also the age
Nintendo.
of games. Yeah.
Very Nintendo. I like that it even had little unique things like Matt Hardy's Matt Facts, like on his entrance. That kind of rotated. You get through the same view after a while, but just a cool little thing to have with the little entrance he had. Did you know?
That was a perfect time for you to be like, speaking of Matt Facts, did you know?
Did you know WWE superstars Chuck Palumbo and Lita were removed from this game, though Chuck appears in WWE SmackDown vs. Raw? Notably missing from this game is Tori Wilson.
Oh, did you know? Friend of the show, Captain Joe Shoes is featured in the commercial for WWE Day of Reckoning behind John Cena during his rap.
Did you know WWE Day of Reckoning is on eBay from $19 to $30 used complete to $75 new and sealed?
And while we're at it, go check out Captain's Log with Joe Shoes, part of the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Patreon, and make sure to go to listen to Car Gomez. It's Shoes and Gomez's regular non-wrestling, all things in between podcast. It's worth a listen. Go and check it out.
But all right, let's take a little break ski here. Johnny's got to take a tinkle, and we're going to come back for some R&R, some ratings, and reviews.
All right, we're back from Tinkle time, John. Are you ready to take us through the R&R?
Too many of these Gatorade Zeros today.
No Powerade?
I'm back on. I get what's on sale. All right. Sit back, relax. Ratings and reviews. Metacritic with a 79 out of 100. EGM with a 5.67 out of 10. EGM, go fuck yourself, as Christian would say. Famitsu with a 29 out of 40. Game Informer with an 8.25 out of 10. Game Pro with a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Game Revolution with a B. GameSpot with an 8.2 out of 10. GameSpy with a 4 out of 5. GameZone 8 out of 10. IGN 8.3 out of 10. Nintendo Power 4 out of 5. XPlay 4 out of 5. Maxim 8 out of 10. And the New York Times average. Now, GameSpot's Alex Navarro and also IGN's Matt Casamassina praised the game's improved story mode and graphics compared to WrestleMania 19, but both kind of also didn't like the character selection, how limited it was. And we touched on that too, how it's kind of smaller. It's very zoomed in on everyone's face. Yeah. Oh yeah. The character select screen. It's like right here. Yeah. It's like, no one wants that.
It's terrifying.
Terrifying. I know. Yeah, very limited, but you got to remember this is not going to have a SmackDown vs. Raw roster. This is a disc that is a little bit bigger than a PSP disc.
Yeah,
but either way, I don't know. I think overall some pretty good ratings here. It started off a little weak. I don't know what EGM is thinking with a 5.67. That just looks like it's a whole bunch of stuff.
Non-wrestling fans, maybe, or
yeah, it's just an average also of a whole bunch of scores.
Well, look, we'll say this. We all make mistakes, and we're going to talk about mistakes coming up because now, John, we've talked about everyone else's ratings, but now it's time for us to give ours up because it's time to rate the game.
The game!
All right. Usually this is the part where I say Johnny Clash's name. He gives his rating. But we're going to do something first. When we first played this game, as I had mentioned before in the episode, and then mentioned it the first time we played. I had no experience with this game prior, and it was the third episode. I was trying to not, give out Player Forevers left and right. I didn't know what I was talking about. Now, 4 years into the podcast, having over 200 games under our belt, I can positively say publicly on the podcast, I've said it to John and in our Discord a million times, I was wrong. I made a mistake. I should not have given this the original rating that I did, and I have since played through this game both on my own and on our Twitch streams, and can say with full confidence this game is amazing. This deserves to be played. This deserves to be on John's top video games of all time list, and it is on my top wrestling games for sure. This was an unsung hero, one of the first gems that I uncovered on this podcast, and I am proud to right this wrong and say that WWE Day of Reckoning gets a play it forever from me.
Woo! Damn, I think you need a sip of water. I'm going to play it forever also. Everything he just said. Woo! How does that sound?
We already knew. I mean, you pretty much started the podcast with a play it forever. And we know if you're a longtime listener of the podcast and you're coming back to listen to the remastered and you've been with us since episode 3, first of all, thank you. And second of all, you knew that John loved this game.
All right. I mean, yeah, double play it forever. I mean, that's really it. But George, are you ready with that? Well, first of all, I want to know what everyone else thinks of this game. I think it's generally love. So if you hate it, maybe, shove it. If you love it, let us know why. Are you ready for the soft lock question of the week?
Do it. All right, the softlock question of the week is where one of our mega marks from our Patreon gives us a topic to debate, a jumping off point for a question. It's a question of the week with a fancy name. This week, the softlock comes from our good friend Justin Summers. Justin's question is, for this remastered episode, what are your top 3 play it forevers and what are the worst 3 future endeavors?
Oh, man.
I got to consult the list.
Are we talking regrets or just our...
I think we're just...
We love games we hated. Maybe games that shocked us even.
Yeah, well...
I will say that I regret a little bit episode 1, World Tour, giving it a future endeavor.
Okay.
I also future endeavored In Your House, but I flipped on the remaster.
Okay, so I will say for me... Oh, okay. Do we want to say joined 3? Like we agree on the 3? Because I have a feeling that you and I are going to agree on what I'm about to say. Your turn on Fire Pro is like my number 1 play it forever change, because you with Fire Pro is me with Day of Reckoning. Like we needed time to get it, have it under our belts to really appreciate what it was.
I'm actually looking at the list now, and I am typing Fire Pro Wrestling Returns Remastered. I'm adding it to the queue.
Ooh, okay.
Because I didn't really know the game then. I hated Fire Pro, and I really hated the community. The stuck-up community of, we're better than the 2K, when it's it's not. But I shouldn't have judged it on that because I do love the series now.
Yeah.
So I would love to replay that one specifically and see what it's all about.
You want to go back and redo Nacho Libre?
No, I don't. We also future endeavored Cutie Suzuki No Ringside Angel, which became a staple on the show.
I'm sticking with that.
He's sticking with it.
I'm sticking with that. How about... I think the ones that I'm staying... Simpsons Wrestling was not great.
Nope.
Celebrity Deathmatch was not great.
Nope.
Are they the worst though?
And then there's like some that just shocked us. Like Action Arcade Wrestling we ended up loving. On the opposite end.
Kaneko Man.
Kaneko Man, the whole
That's
series,
a series that, oh my God. I mean, I look forward to every time, even like the old school, like original, like NES ones that we played of Kaneko Man. They're all great. Like Tag Team Muscle, like did we Future Endeavor Tag Team Muscle?
It's possible. That's the one with the bubble, right? The bubble that goes across the screen and gives you abilities and stuff.
Tag Team Wrestling. Tag Team Muscle. Nope. Double Player Forever.
Now, another one that I think not shocked me, but I didn't really know it going in was Wrestle Kingdom.
Yep.
Which, looking at today, same engine, Day of Reckoning, rightfully so, that I love this game. I thought it was great. I think there was even some handhelds that shocked me. Remember Rumbleverse? We only played that last year.
Oh,
we both played it forever, and now it's gone.
And now it's gone.
That might have
and we won.
kickstarted us liking Fortnite again.
Oh, that's quite a connection you just made.
Quite a connection, eh? Man, there's been so many, though. I mean, you never really played TNA up until this podcast.
Nope, and the TNA game is phenomenal.
Yeah. What about M. Dickey games? Those guys we kind of did a 180 on. You played it forever.
The first one, 3D, I liked.
I Future Endeavored.
And then I think we flipped on the next one, or we stayed?
I don't remember, but we played
Empire recently.
Yeah. Did we?
Is that year 3
we
or 4?
played it forever, that one. That was year 3. I still have that on my phone. I still play it from time to time. Actually, Wrestling Revolution 3D, I also still have purchased on my phone, like the purchased version.
Oh, you know what else is a good one that has stuck with me, both from the first year of the podcast all the way through now? WrestleMania, the arcade game.
For sure. One of my favorite games ever.
I think that's one of the best like Play It Forevers that we've done.
What about Double Turn, the game that we pre-recorded while I was waiting for the birth of my child? That was just a random Steam game. That was like a little brawler. I really like that game.
That whole period of like pre-recording all the episodes in preparation for that was...
Dude, when in reality, like the baby's here and I'm just recording, like I'm able to record. Like she's
it's very different because now you're months in. Now, like you are comfortable. There's a schedule. Like you didn't know what you were getting into. Like
we grinded for those episodes too.
Oh yeah, we're like 2-3 episodes a week.
Choose, yeah. Man, crazy. But hey, let us know what your top 3 games. Let's just say like shocking Play It Forevers or Future Endeavors you've ever had.
Yeah, I would say not based off of what Johnny and I think, but games that you thought that you would love and you ended up not being as crazy about, and games that you were just like, this is going to be terrible, and then you ended up loving them. Would love to hear wrestling and non-wrestling. Let us know.
Yeah. What is a game that like shocked you? Like not a non-wrestling game that you just like loved?
So, okay.
Go ahead.
What?
No, go ahead.
So I was going to say, I had no expectations and, going to go into this and you could be like, whoa, that's dumb looking back. But I picked up the original The Last of Us on a whim. Like when I bought the game.
Exactly what I was going to say.
I bought the game used. I had no knowledge of it. Like the guy at GameStop was just like, everyone's talking about this game. They said that it's really, really good. And I was just like, do you have it used? Because if I don't like it, at least I can return it. And he's like, yeah, we have one copy. And I picked it up and that was it. But like,
so I remember seeing commercials for it, but it didn't show a single zombie. It didn't really show like what the game was other than it looked really nice.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, oh, what is this? This is intriguing. I'm like, is it post-apocalyptic? Is it zombie? Like, what is this? And I think I just like asked for it for Christmas. It was just on my list and it was just a game I got. And at that point I knew what it was. And I was like, holy crap. Which, speaking of, Liam Davis, friend of the show, huge shout out. Grabbed me a Last of Us shirt at Halloween Horror Nights. Didn't break the bank. He gave it to me. It is even better than I thought. It has The Last of Us like on the sleeve.
Listen, I'm going on record here. It's been a while since we've had him on the podcast, and he's
down to make it happen.
he is funny. He is a funny guy, and I want him to be on the podcast
We'll
again.
figure something out in the future. A game that he knows, because he doesn't know a lot of these.
We could add it to the list. We'll do Royal Rumble remastered for the Dreamcast.
No one wants that. No one. He does.
He's the only one. Wait, here we go. We'll do a Knights of the Round Table episode. Me, you, Liam Davis, and Swoggle. Swoggle will leave the chat within the first 30 seconds.
I'm putting it on the list. I think that could be fun.
If we could somehow get shoes in there too, it's just pure chaos.
And shoes. Got it. But all right. Talk about all these games. There is one that we have not played yet, and it has been on the list for a really long time, and people have asked us, when are you playing this? King Soul All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Well, now.
This is a big fan favorite game, so I'm excited to see what the hype is about.
All right. This will be a good one. But with that, guys, make sure to go check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast for our weekly playthrough videos, the video versions of the podcast, and a whole lot more. GameMarksPod.com/shop for all of our exclusive merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod for our shirts. Patreon.com/GameMarksPod for this show early and ad-free. Access to show notes. Join the Discord. Have your chance to ask your soft lock questions and be a part of the live recording of the podcast at Game Marks Pod on all forms of social media. And please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. It really does help out the podcast. And also what helps out the podcast is if you leave us a review and a rating on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you have a product or service that you would like to advertise on this podcast, please reach out to us at GameMarksPod@gmail.com. And if you are listening to this podcast, you should also be listening to these two other podcasts. We talked about one earlier in the show. It is Car Jomez, Captain Joe Shoes podcast with his good buddy Gomez. And Going Postal, it is myself and friend of the show, Swoggle. That's Dylan Postal. You know him, Hornswoggle. He was in WWE for like 10 years. He did a lot of stuff. Muppets, Leprechauns. It's great. Great show. As of recording the next episode that's going to come out in time for Halloween, we are doing a breakdown of Dylan when he was in Leprechaun Origins. So we get to hear about the time that Dylan shot a movie and hear all the funny behind the scenes stories and things of that nature. So go and check us out. And I believe the hot take for that episode will be about Dylan's most favorite and least favorite Halloween candy, which is a suggestion by one Johnny Clash. So very excited about that. But with that, John, do that thing that you do, sir.
Game over. Marks.
I'm so glad I got to write this wrong.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.